Suns lose a close one last night. I said this earlier, and I think it's where I'll start here. What stood out to me in that game last night, there's no room for moral victories at this point because they've lost too many games. Yep. But if this were a normal season and the Suns had just kind of maybe gone through a rut or something, but instead of being 27-31, they were, 35-23 or something. I think there's value in a game like that last night. You can take something from that. The problem is they need to win like almost every game now.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. They played hard, Basinonians. They did. They didn't quit. They didn't pack it up. And I'm happy to say that. I am. As a former professional athlete, this matters. To me, it does.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many meaningless games I played in December. How many meaningless games I played maybe in November. Okay? I'm just saying, I cannot tell you how many. Yet at the same time, the respect that I have for the job and for going out and competing and playing the game that I loved. Oh, my goodness. So many other guys in that locker room. So many other great football players who refused to quit, who took pride in their purpose. And that really is what I want to see from the Phoenix Suns at this point in time. Pride in your job. Pride in purpose. Not a haughty kind of pride, Basinonians. Not a haughtiness, my young crunks. Just a goodness about this is what God has gifted me with, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to use every ounce of goodness that I have to try to win this game and do my job, because this is why they pay me. I want to see that kind of urgency and intensity the rest of the way. And last night we saw it.
This is why this season is so messed up, because we all feel this with the Suns, right? I mean, does anybody confidently – I was looking at the odds yesterday, and I'm sure they've gotten even worse. It's like they're plus 610, the Suns, to make the playoffs. I'm sure before the season they were like minus 500 to make the playoffs. Just to make they're probably plus 610 to like get to the Western Conference Finals.
I don't even know what you're talking about with the 610.
Plus 610's a very high number to
great.
make the playoffs.
Luke Lipinski reporting.
Basically 6-1 odds to make the playoffs.
Okay.
Just to make the playoffs. So we all feel that, and I'm sure on some level they feel it. But at the same time, Wolf, they're 2.5 games behind Sacramento for a play-in spot. You're still playing for a play-in spot. You're 2.5 games behind a Sacramento team that this is not the 96 Bulls. And you've still got 24 games left, which is almost 30% of your season. Right. So if you
But the road is bumpy.
It is. But if you set aside for a second the schedule ahead of them and the fact that they've been a disappointment this season, that's like the NFL equivalent of being a game out of a wild card spot with 5 games to go.
Yeah.
You would never just be like, oh, we're done. A game back with 5 games to go. That's basically what the math is on this. So they're still very much in striking distance, and yet at the same time, it was hard to watch the end of that game and not think, man, this might be the one. This might be the demoralizing final blow of they're still giving it seemingly all they have, and yet they still walked away with a loss.
Yeah, for me again, this is how low my expectations have really dropped on the Phoenix Suns. When I'm sitting here and I'm putting last night's game into the positive category, because they looked engaged, because they showed a sense of urgency and had intensity. Effort matters. Professionalism matters. I care about that stuff. I know how hard it is. I know what it's like to compete against another super talented human being. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And all the time, your effort should never change. And that's why I really appreciated what I saw last night from the Phoenix Suns. Again, they lost the game, but it wasn't because they were out there and they weren't trying. Defensively, they're just not good. Oh, my goodness. They're just not good on the defensive end of the floor.
It's a different conversation, but I don't understand why Ryan Dunn isn't playing more if you're struggling defensively. Because this is a guy that is going to be a part of your future. And if you're doing everything you can to still try to make the play in right now, and I'm sure if I'm coaching the Phoenix Suns right now, the numbers I just gave you are true. They're 2.5 games out of a postseason spot with 24 to go. You should not be playing for next year. You shouldn't be. Even if none of us believe you're going to really make much of a run, you should absolutely be playing for right now. I thought Ryan Dunn was a factor, like a positive factor earlier this season,
right.
and he's just barely playing at all now. It's I don't know what happened there. Here's Mike Budenholzer after the game talking about the defense.
They made some shots and they made some plays late. Wells, I think is 5 for 7 from the 3-point line, and Aldama, I think, is 5 for 7 from the 3-point line. Those guys making shots. Some of the transition. I think in the first half and the second half, some big transition 3 baskets where we got to find everybody, get to shooters, be better defensively. But there's, I think some rim protection, Mason's defense around the rim, Bowles' defense around the rim, Nick, despite his foul trouble. So, rebounded better. So there's some stuff to build on both ends, I think.
Yeah, there is no doubt about that. It's fascinating. Not to dismiss Coach Bud at all right now, but there are numbers that I'm looking at right now that I'm having a hard time absorbing. The Grizzlies shot 53% from the floor, 42% from 3. Are those good numbers, Luke?
those are ridiculous.
Those are really, really good numbers right there. Ladies and gentlemen, the Suns shot 54% from the floor and 57% from 3. They were 21 of 37, and they lost this game. I mean, that is 21 of 37.
Make that make sense.
57%.
It was the free throws. And the free throws cost the Suns late. And I do think, I think that this needs to be said, and we mentioned it earlier, but I do think it needs to be said because if you're a Suns fan watching or listening to that game last night, you're probably screaming this at your radio right now. That game was horribly officiated. The Suns got screwed. I'm not saying that makes up for the rest of the season, but it was not officiated well.
And once again, I do not. If you've listened to me, Basinonians, I do not. I don't ever sit there and go, they lost because of the Zebras. I think they lost because of the Zebras.
They didn't get a ton of help, and when the game goes to overtime, 1 or 2 bad calls is costly.
So bad.
Because what you're saying, Wolf, like I'm looking at this, and a lot of times the Suns outshoot their opponent percentage-wise. A lot of times they do, and they still lose because the other team takes 15 more shots or whatever. Both teams took 99 shots last night. The Suns were 53 of 99. Memphis was 52 of 99. Both teams shot well from 3, like you said. The Memphis was 20 of 48. The Suns were 21 of 37.
21 of 37.
I mean, how do you not win a game when you shoot like that?
Exactly.
And it was just simply that Memphis made 6 more free throws. And I'm not saying the free throws are why Memphis won. I'm just saying there were moments in that game where you're like, how are you calling this on one team and not on the other?
Thanks for watching Wolf and Luke. Tap to see more and click the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.